In the age of likes and followers, image is everything. But behind every perfect selfie, there's a truth we're not meant to see. In April 2022, inside a luxury Miami high-rise, a call for help shattered the illusion. A young woman, influencer, model, millionaire, stood over her boyfriend's lifeless body, whispering, "I didn't mean to, it was self-defense." The world wanted to believe her. Her lawyers called her the victim. Her followers called her brave. But the evidence called her something else entirely. A video surfaced, one she didn't want anyone to see. And when the footage leaked, everything changed. Fame turned to fear. The victim became the suspect. And the internet became the jury. This isn't just the story of a killing. It's the story of how social media built an empire, and then tore it down. Because in a world built on filters and fame, the truth doesn't disappear, it waits. She was a rising star, Courtney Clenney, loved, envied, followed by millions. Yet behind the filters and fame, something darker was waiting. Something no camera could hide. Tonight, we're diving deep into the case that blurred the line between passion and danger, and revealed what happens when a digital dream turns deadly. If you love real investigative storytelling, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because stories like this, they don't stay buried for long. She sits quietly in a Miami courtroom, her once blonde hair now dark, her posture rigid, her hands clasped on the table before her. 3 years. That's how long she's been waiting. No trial, no verdict, just silence. Her lawyers tell her to be patient. They promise justice. They tell the world she's not a monster but a victim, a woman who fought back against a violent boyfriend. They call it self-defense. But in this courtroom, patience is running out. Because everyone here has seen something her defense cannot explain. Something that changed everything. That something was a video. Just a few minutes of footage, grainy, imperfect, but powerful enough to rewrite an entire narrative. Before the video surfaced, Courtney Clenney was seen as the survivor, an Instagram model turned victim, her story wrapped neatly in sympathy. After the video, she became the accused. The footage opens with an argument. A young woman's voice, sharp, relentless. A man's voice, tired, pleading. They circle each other in the luxury high-rise apartment that had once been their paradise. "You never loved me," she screams. "Get out. Get out. I never want to see you again." There's a crash, a muffled shout, then the sound of a struggle that seems to drain the room of air. Moments later, her tone changes. The fury collapses into something eerily calm. Can I have a hug?" she whispers. Her voice trembles. Her clothes are soaked in blood. And at her feet lies Christian Abumsali, 27 years old, dying from a single stab wound 3 inches deep, straight to the heart. That Miami apartment, once a symbol of success and desire, was now a crime scene. The influencer who flaunted her life online was suddenly the focus of a homicide investigation. Social media called it the OnlyFans killing. Prosecutors called it murder. And in between those two words, fame and crime, a nation became obsessed. The press flooded the story with headlines. Model or murderer? Love, lies, and live streams. The influencer who killed for control. The public didn't know what to believe. Some saw a young woman pushed too far, trapped in a toxic relationship. Others saw entitlement, privilege, and rage. But behind every photo she posted, behind the designer bags, the champagne, the endless smiles, there were cracks. Police records. Neighbor complaints. Whispers of violence long before the stabbing ever happened. In the months leading up to that April night in 2022, Courtney Clenney's online empire had begun to wobble. The fame that once felt intoxicating was turning sour. She was arguing more often. Drinking more heavily. Friends recalled her anger, unpredictable, explosive. And Christian? He was trying to hold everything together, the apartment, the relationship, her temper. But love, when it turns toxic, doesn't end quietly. Soft pause. What no one realized then was that this video, the one the world would soon watch in disbelief, was only part of the story. It wasn't the beginning of the violence. It was the ending of a cycle that had been spiraling for years. The footage captured only minutes of their final fight, but the truth behind it stretched far beyond the frame. through dozens of arguments, police visits, and silent apologies. Because sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones we think could never break. And sometimes, beauty is just the mask that hides the damage underneath. When the courtroom lights dim and the footage pauses, there's a heavy stillness. No one speaks. Even her own attorneys shift uncomfortably. For the first time, the woman who curated perfection online looks ordinary, human, and utterly exposed. She stares ahead, unmoving. The prosecution prepares its next exhibit. Outside, the Miami rain begins to fall, soft at first, then relentless, tapping against the courthouse windows like a ticking clock. Because in this case, time has a way of uncovering every secret. And soon, everyone would learn. Behind Courtney's flawless image lay a pattern no one wanted to see. A pattern that would turn a millionaire model into the face of a modern-day tragedy. Before the headlines, before the blood, before the courtroom, there was a girl from Texas who believed beauty could open any door. Her name was Courtney Clenney. And in her world, beauty wasn't just power. It was currency. She wasn't born into wealth. There were no mansions or million-dollar views in her childhood, just small-town Texas, sunburned afternoons, and big dreams that didn't fit inside ordinary walls. From a young age, she learned the unspoken truth of the digital age. If you looked perfect, you could rewrite who you were. So she did. Courtney started small, local modeling jobs, promotional shoots, fitness ads. Then came Instagram, her real launch pad. The platform loved her. She was blonde, bold, confident, and camera-ready. Every post was a performance. Every like, a validation. She posed on beaches, danced under sunlight, sold the illusion of a flawless life. And millions watched. But perfection has a price. As her following grew, so did her hunger for more money, more attention, more control. Then came OnlyFans. To some, it was controversial. To Courtney, it was liberation. She could monetize desire, no middleman, no limits, no apologies. And she did. Within 2 years, she had earned more than $3 million. Her penthouse overlooked the Miami skyline. Her designer closet overflowed. To her followers, she was living the dream, luxury, confidence, freedom. But behind the glow of her phone screen, something darker was forming. The fame that once felt empowering began to isolate her. The likes and messages blurred into noise. The pressure to stay adored, to stay relevant, to stay perfect, it never stopped. And that's when she met Christian Toby Abumsali. Christian was calm to her chaos, or at least, that's how it began. Born in Nigeria and raised in Texas, he was intelligent, measured, and quietly ambitious. A cryptocurrency trader who believed he could handle anything, even someone like Courtney. Their worlds collided fast. She was the hurricane. He was the anchor. And for a while, it worked. Their chemistry was undeniable, passionate, magnetic, addictive. They were the couple everyone envied, young, rich, beautiful, inseparable. But behind the glossy facade, small cracks began to show. Friends described their love as intense. Neighbors called it loud. They moved in together in Austin, Texas. What started as romantic bliss soon became a cycle: argument, apology, repeat. By 2021, police were responding to noise complaints. Neighbors heard shouting, objects breaking, tears muffled by closed doors. But there was something else, something crucial. Even those closest to them couldn't tell who was the aggressor. In domestic disputes, people assume patterns. They assume the man hits first, the woman suffers silently. But this time, that assumption would shield the wrong person. In August 2021, during a trip to Las Vegas, that illusion cracked. A fight erupted inside their hotel suite. Security called the police. Bodycam footage from that night would later surface, showing Christian with injuries on his face, his voice calm, pleading with officers. Courtney, emotional, defensive, insisting she didn't remember throwing a glass at him. "I don't even remember," she said. "But that sounds like me." It wasn't the first time she lost control. It wouldn't be the last. She was arrested for domestic battery, but the charges were dropped. The incident, forgotten. Or perhaps, ignored. Christian forgave her. He believed she'd change. He believed love could fix her. But love can be dangerous when it becomes rescue. Because while Christian saw someone broken, someone worth saving, Courtney saw someone who'd never leave. And the truth is, when control is your addiction, love becomes your weapon. As months passed, their fights grew louder. Their circle of friends is smaller. Her outbursts are more violent. But still, they stayed together. Because toxic love doesn't end in one explosion, it erodes, slowly. Behind every smiling selfie, there was a bruise on the story, invisible to the lens, but etched into their lives. And soon, those cracks would rupture in a way no one could ignore. The next time Courtney Clenney lost control, she wouldn't throw a glass. She'd pick up a knife. April 3, 2022. It was a Sunday like any other, humid, restless, and heavy with Miami heat. Inside a luxury apartment on the 22nd floor of the One Paraiso building, the view stretched endlessly over Biscayne Bay. From a distance, it looked like paradise: glass walls, white marble floors, sunlight spilling across the room. But paradise can be deceiving. For weeks, things between Courtney Clenney and Christian Abumsali had been unraveling. Their friends noticed the tension, arguments over money, jealousy, control. Christian had told one friend he was planning to move out. Courtney, in her own words, couldn't handle losing him. By afternoon, the arguments had already begun. Neighbors would later testify to hearing yelling through the walls, shouting, slamming, crying. One called security, reporting a fight that sounded dangerous. But no one intervened. In Miami, arguments between lovers are just part of the city's soundtrack. Until they aren't. At 4:57 p.m., the building's front desk received a frantic call. A woman's voice, shaking. "My boyfriend is dying," she cried. "He stabbed himself. No, I stabbed him, but it was self-defense." Her tone changed mid-sentence, a flicker of confusion or control. No one could tell. When officers arrived, they found the door unlocked. The scene was chaos. Blood smeared on the kitchen floor. A knife, stainless steel, 6 inches, lying beside Christian's body. Courtney was standing nearby, barefoot, her clothes drenched in red. Her hands trembled. Her voice didn't. "Can I have a hug?" she asked one of the officers. It was a request that left even the responding detective speechless. Christian was still breathing, barely. Paramedics worked frantically, but it was too late. He was pronounced dead minutes later, a single stab wound to the chest, 3 inches deep, piercing his heart. The knife had entered at an angle, deliberate, forceful, not accidental. Courtney claimed he had attacked her, that she had acted in fear. But the crime scene didn't agree. There were no defensive wounds on her body. No signs of struggle in the apartment. Only blood, his blood, and a quiet that felt unnatural. The detectives took her statement. Her words were practiced. Calm. Almost too calm. She said Christian had pinned her down. She said she grabbed the knife to protect herself. But she couldn't explain the depth of the wound, or the lack of bruises. And then, there was her phone. As officers sealed off the scene, one detective noticed the unlocked screen. Text notifications. Missed calls. A message preview that read, "Why are you always so mean?" The phone would soon tell a story no one in that apartment was ready to hear. While detectives processed the evidence, Courtney was escorted downstairs. Her face expressionless, her body still. But when the cameras flashed, she looked up, instinctively. Like a performer remembering the audience was still watching. That image would become one of the most haunting photos of the case. A woman in handcuffs, blood still on her skin, staring directly into the lens. It's easy to forget that moments like this don't begin in the violence. They build over time. Every fight, every apology, every ignored red flag becomes another step toward collapse. And on that Sunday, everything that had been ignored finally broke. Courtney was detained, but not immediately charged. She was questioned, released, and later checked into a mental health facility, citing trauma and suicidal thoughts. Meanwhile, Christian's family demanded answers. They refused to believe it was self-defense. They said he was the one trying to leave, that he'd told them she'd attacked him before, more than once. And then came the first leak, an audio recording from a friend who'd captured one of their earlier fights. Courtney's voice was sharp, furious, screaming insults. Christian's, quiet, trying to calm her down. It was the same pattern over and over, her rage, his restraint. But even that wasn't enough to prove intent. The police needed something more. Something undeniable. And that something was already on its way. Days after the stabbing, a video surfaced. Security footage from the building's elevator, recorded just weeks before Christian's death. It showed Courtney, striking him, pushing him, screaming as he tried to hold her back. She hit him again and again, until the elevator doors opened and he walked out, silent. The world saw it. And suddenly, the victim became the villain. Social media erupted. Clips of the elevator fight spread everywhere. The woman who had built her empire on a curated image was now infamous for a single violent frame. Public opinion shifted overnight. Hashtags that once promoted her fitness brand now carried one word: #JusticeForChristian. The narrative had changed, but the investigation had only just begun. Forensic teams reconstructed the timeline. Blood pattern analysis. Knife trajectory. Angle of entry. Every detail pointed away from self-defense and toward rage. And when detectives unlocked her phone fully, what they found was a digital diary of destruction. Messages of jealousy, threats, and violence that painted a picture of control turned deadly. Courtney Clenney's story was falling apart. And soon the internet that made her famous would expose her for who she truly was. The internet had made her a star. Now, it would tear her world apart. After the night of April 3rd, detectives turned their attention to what Courtney left behind. Not in blood, not in the apartment, but in her phone. A small, rose-gold iPhone. Locked behind a passcode. But when the search warrant came through, that phone would become the loudest witness of all. What the detectives found first were the texts, thousands of them. Arguments that began with affection and ended with rage. Voice notes filled with apologies and accusations. Screenshots of threats and pleas, all written in digital ink. Courtney's messages told a story far from the image she'd shared with her 2 million followers. There were moments where she admitted hitting Christian. Others where she threatened him. And sometimes silence, long stretches of time where his messages went unanswered, followed by hers flooding back with anger and regret. "You make me crazy," she wrote. "You'll never leave me. I'll ruin you before you leave me." Detectives knew this wasn't just emotion. It escalated. Every text, every call, every timestamp was cross-checked. The timeline grew, one filled with patterns of abuse, reconciliation, and the illusion of control. But the phone held something darker. Video clips, some deleted, others hidden in cloud backups. In one, Courtney is seen recording herself crying, whispering, "He doesn't understand what I do for us." In another, she's screaming. The phone accidentally left recording on the counter, capturing the sound of glass shattering and Christian's quiet, pleading voice in the background. In every image she posted, she was smiling. In every private recording, she was unraveling. Then came the leak. A journalist received an anonymous email, a file titled, "Elevator Footage, MOV." No one knew who sent it. But once it hit the internet, there was no turning back. The video showed what the text messages had only hinted at. Courtney, in a gray hoodie, enters the elevator with Christian. For a few seconds, they stand silently. Then she turns on him, striking him again and again, her expression fierce, her movements frantic. He doesn't fight back. He just stands there, taking it, pressing the button for his floor. The elevator doors open. He steps out. She follows. That 30-second clip changed everything. It was the moment the narrative shifted. The influencer who had built her fortune on control and image was now the face of digital exposure, caught in the very lens she once used for fame. The internet erupted. Comments flooded in. Some called her a manipulator. Others called her a murderer. The same platforms that once worshipped her beauty now replayed her violence, frame by frame. Courtney's attorneys tried to suppress the footage. They called it misleading, taken out of context. But the damage was done. The court of public opinion had already delivered its verdict. Prosecutors built their case with precision. The phone records, the surveillance footage, the coroner's report, the texts. Piece by piece, they constructed a portrait of rage disguised as love. And in the center of it all, one undeniable truth: digital evidence doesn't lie. Behind the scenes, forensic analysts went deeper. They traced deleted files, recovered hidden folders, even found location data showing moments when Courtney had tracked Christian's whereabouts. One folder, labeled private, contained photos from their final days together, smiling selfies, beach shots, and then the last image, a kitchen counter with a knife beside a half-eaten meal. The time stamp? April 3rd. Hours before his death. The contrast was chilling. The same hand that held the phone, framing perfect moments for followers, was the same hand that held the knife. In a digital world, nothing truly disappears. Detectives combed through her financial records too. They found payments for anger management courses she never attended. And searches: domestic violence self-defense, Miami legal counsel for murder, and how long forensics keep blood evidence. Every click, every post, every message told a version of the story she never wanted the world to see. News outlets ran with it. OnlyFans model charged in boyfriend's death. True crime podcasts picked it apart. Social media turned into a battlefield, some defending her, others demanding justice for Christian. Christian's family released a statement. He believed in love. He forgave too easily. And it cost him everything. The case had left the digital world divided. Was Courtney Clenney a victim who snapped, or a manipulator who finally lost control? But for investigators, there was no question. The data spoke louder than emotion. And when prosecutors compiled the final report, 400 pages of messages, videos, and evidence, it formed a mosaic of obsession, control, and fatal consequences. Courtney's world was collapsing, brand deals gone, fans disappearing, evidence mounting. And soon the woman who once lived in front of a camera would have to face one she couldn't control, the one in the courtroom. The day the trial began, Miami felt heavier. Courtrooms don't often draw crowds like this. Influencers, journalists, activists, even former fans of Courtney Clenney. Everyone came to witness what some called the social media trial of the decade. The woman once known online as Courtney Taylor walked in wearing beige prison attire. Her hair darker, her smile gone. For the first time, the filters were gone too. There was no soft lighting, no retouching, no curated captions. Just reality. The prosecution wasted no time. They began with the video. The footage that had shattered illusions. The elevator clip where Courtney struck Christian again and again, his face blank, his body still. Every screen in the courtroom showed the same haunting moment. The air grew thick. The jurors leaned forward. And for 30 silent seconds, the world saw what fame had tried to hide. Christian's mother sat in the front row, gripping a folded photograph of her son. She didn't cry. She'd done enough of that in private. She just stared, unblinking, as the elevator doors opened again on that screen. This was not self-defense. This was a pattern of control, aggression, and manipulation. Then came the texts. Hundreds of messages projected one by one. Her words, not twisted, not edited, just raw and real. I hate you. I'll ruin your life. You'll never love anyone else. Each message hit like a hammer. The defense fought back, arguing that Christian had been controlling too, that he'd provoked her, that she feared him. But the evidence, stacked like bricks, left little room for doubt. The prosecutors played the final 911 call. Courtney's voice echoed through the courtroom, frantic, shaking, but strangely detached. He's dying. I didn't mean to. Please send someone. Then, silence. Followed by the coroner's words. One wound. 3 inches deep. Direct to the heart. At that moment, the courtroom wasn't watching a celebrity. They were watching a story about power, and how easily it can twist into tragedy. Witnesses took the stand. Neighbors, security guards, police officers. Each one painted a consistent picture of arguments, shouting, broken glass. Of a woman who lived for control, and a man who kept forgiving her. Even the building's security footage told its own story, one of slammed doors, crying behind walls, and repeated visits from police. Every recording, every timestamp, spoke louder than any testimony. For 3 weeks, the world watched. Clips from the trial went viral. Podcasts debated guilt versus trauma. Influencers posted reaction videos dissecting her body language, every tear, every glance, every pause. But inside the courtroom, there was no performance. Only truth. When the verdict came, it was swift. The jury found her guilty of second-degree murder. A collective breath escaped the room, not relief, not satisfaction, just the weight of inevitability. Courtney didn't cry. She just looked down, her hands trembling slightly as the judge read the sentence. 25 years in the custody of the state of Florida. Christian's mother closed her eyes. His father whispered, "Justice." The reporters scribbled. And outside, the cameras flashed again, capturing a different kind of fame. The influencer who once lived through her followers was now followed by guards. Her life reduced to numbers, cell block, inmate ID, years to serve. The internet reacted the only way it knew how: memes. Debates. Hashtags. Hashtag justice for Christian, hashtag Courtney Clenney trial. But beneath the noise, one question lingered: how did love turn into this? Because beyond the headlines, beyond the fame, there were two broken people, one buried, one behind bars. Both victims, in their own ways, of a world that rewards attention over reflection. Courtney's social media pages remain frozen in time. Photos of sunsets, champagne, designer dresses. Comments now filled with anger, sorrow, and disbelief. Christian's name, once unknown to millions, became a symbol, a reminder of how easily abuse hides behind wealth, beauty, and the glow of a ring light. In the end, the courtroom's verdict didn't just convict Courtney. It exposed something deeper: how social media, fame, and obsession can twist human emotion into something unrecognizable. She once built a career controlling the narrative. But in the end, it was the evidence, the texts, the footage, the truth, that controlled her story. And as the gavel fell for the final time, one truth remained: no filter, no follower count, no online persona can hide who we are when the cameras stop rolling. So what do you think? Was this justice or vengeance? Was she a victim who finally broke, or a manipulator who always knew how to play the part? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, sometimes, the truth hides behind the most beautiful lies. In the end, justice wasn't decided by followers, but by evidence. Courtney Clenney, the influencer who lived her life online, was found guilty of second-degree murder. A verdict that divided the world, between those who saw her as a victim of love gone wrong, and those who saw her for what the evidence revealed. Behind every post, every smile, every follower, there was pain no filter could hide. And behind Christian's quiet eyes, there was a story that ended too soon. But maybe this story isn't about fame, or violence, or even love. Maybe it's about how far people will go to protect an image that was never real. Was it justice, or vengeance? Was this the fall of a woman pushed too far, or the mask finally slipping off? You decide. Tell us what you think in the comments below. And as for what comes next, there's another story, one that started just like this one. A perfect couple. A beautiful life. And a secret waiting to surface. But this time, the camera was already rolling. In the end, the truth didn't come from her words. It came from the video, the one moment that stripped away the glamour and showed who she really was. But as the verdict echoed through that Miami courtroom, one question still lingered. Was Courtney Clenney a victim who finally snapped, or a manipulator who believed beauty could buy her freedom? Tell us what you think in the comments. And if you want more true stories where power, passion, and deception collide, subscribe, turn on notifications, and join us for the next episode. Because sometimes, the truth isn't what it looks like.